Yo, what's up guys? It's your boy Rich, aka Major Monkey. Hope you guys are doing good. Hope you've been having a fantastic week. And yeah, we're back with another review video today. It's going to be another mouse, specifically from Pulsar's Pro Series lineup, the JV-X. So super excited to be talking to you guys about the mouse, but very stoked, very honored, and massive shout out to Pulsar for giving me this opportunity to finally and officially professionally review a mouse from them, a product from them. It's always been a goal of mine as a, peripheral reviewer, just another dude who loves peripherals, to be able to have the opportunity to actually receive a mouse from them, review it for them, and talk to you guys about it. It's just super exciting, and honestly, it's about a mouse that I have been really interested in. So for me personally, I'm very excited, and also just excited for the opportunity in general. And so massive shout out to Pulsar. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, if you guys are new to the video, thank you guys for checking out the channel, and hopefully you enjoy the video. Let's get straight into the review. Alrighty guys, so for price we're looking at $130. Now compared to something like the Soccer Edition from Final Mouse that we just reviewed, definitely not as expensive as that, but we're not going to call it a budget mouse though for sure. It's, it's kind of right in between the two. It is rated for 56 grams. Now typically when we weigh these mice, they advertise a certain weight target, then they say give or take, the whole thing. And usually they'll be a little bit heavier, sometimes a lot heavier, or maybe, pretty close to the target. For my unit of the JV-X, my unit actually came in under the target that they were advertising. So instead of 56, mine came in at 54.7-ish grams. So just super cool that, typically I'm always expecting it to be a little bit heavier, and I'm always kind of excited to see that it's very close to the target, where with this, I was just surprised to see that it was actually under what they were advertising. For me personally, 54-ish grams is not, it's definitely getting there in the more kind of heavier, but 50 grams is still not heavy by any means. My personal preference is that kind of upper 30s to lower 40s, but 54 grams, this mouse does not feel heavy at all. You're not going to have any issues with, gaming with this mouse. 56 grams is very light still, so no complaints with the weight at all. It does offer the 8K polling rate included with the box and everything. You don't have to go buy a separate dongle. I know in the past with Pulsar, they would sometimes not always include that 8K dongle. It was always 8K compatible, but then you have to go buy the separate dongle and then that whole thing, But super stoked to see that in the recent mice that I have received from Pulsar through, purchasing them, like the 10th edition mouse or the Crazy Light that I got from a giveaway. It was nice to see that both of those came with an actual 8K dongle included. You didn't have to go buy it, an additional, cost or anything like that. So super nice with that. They're using their in-house optical switches. They're using their flagship XS-1 sensor, and same with the encoder. It's in-house. It's their blue encoder, I believe. And in terms of all the clicks and everything feels super nice. The side buttons feel super crisp. The main buttons, I actually really love the main clicks on the mouse. Let's see if you guys can hear it here. I have a video for an unboxing and sound test, but just you guys want to just hear that really quick. Really enjoy the clicks on the mouse. The scroll wheel feels very nice. It's not a heavy mouse scroll wheel at all. To go down and up, it's very easy. It's not super light though at the same time. It does have some force you need to push on it, so you're not going to be accidentally, pushing on it or anything like that. But feels very nice. It does have its pronounced kind of tactile steps in between its, rotation of the scroll wheel. Super nice. Battery has been feeling very well. No complaints with that. Of course, I'm playing it at 8K, so the battery life doesn't, last forever. Whereas, if you had something like the at 2K or 1K, that'll save you so much more battery life. And so it's just kind of personal preference for you. If you're someone that knows that you're going to be able to charge it very often and you won't forget, then you can rock at 8K. And for me personally, I haven't had any issues playing at 8K. And then vice versa, if you're someone that, maybe prefers the battery life more than that, jump in polling rate performance, then you can easily rock it at 1K and get a ton of life out of it. And so yeah, let's get into the second part of the video, which will be covering the shape of the mouse. Alrighty guys, so for this part, typically I would have some mice here to compare it with, to the JV-X, but I actually couldn't really find a mouse that is very similar to it. I have been using Elo shapes to always try and find similar mice. So Does that mean that there is no mouse that exists in this world that is like the JV-X? Not necessarily. I'm just going off of what Elo Shapes does provide, because I don't know, obviously, every mouse in the entire market. So is there a mouse that's probably just like this? Possibly. But, you know, I checked a ton of ergo mice that I've used in the past just to see how they shape up and kind of compare with something like the JV-X. So I compared things like the Terra Pro from T-Evolution, the Logitech, Dex. I tried the Death Adder V3. I tried other Pulsar ergos. I tried a whole ton of them. I even tried the OGM V2 from Wiseow, and none of them. So there were some parts of the mouse that maybe they were kind of similar. It is an ergo mouse still at the end of the day, but nothing could really match this kind of shape, where you have this kind of very bulky kind of front side, but then it really kind of sleeks down to the back, and it has like this kind of, I don't know how to explain it. To me, it's like it really creates like a tail for the mouse, which might sound stupid, but it's a very, very unique ergo mouse in my opinion, and I couldn't find a shape that replicated this kind of style. And yeah, so kind of short little part for the shape comparison. Couldn't find one. I tried, and so in the comments, please, if you know a mouse that has this kind of dimensions exactly, or like 95% there, please drop that in the comments and I can check it out, and then make like a little pinned comment to just kind of add an edit that there is a mouse indeed like it for you guys to go look at and compare with it. But for me personally, I couldn't find one, and yeah, I couldn't find a shape. And so now let's get into the final part of the video, which will be my personal experience of the mouse during my time of using it. Alrighty guys, so like I said, I've been using the mouse now for about a little bit, and I have really been enjoying the heck out of the JV-X. Now, like I said in the beginning, I was really interested in this mouse, not because I was confident that I was going to like it. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to like the mouse or not. So if you guys know me and have seen my other mice review videos where I've talked about my preference in grip and kind of the shapes that I really like, I am a very much relaxed claw grip kind of guy, so I like a good kind of emphasis in the hump towards the back of the mouse, just to kind of fill up my palm so I can claw it very nice. And when looking at this mouse and when I saw it in photos and stuff, I was like, there is no way, they're advertising it as a mouse for palm grip and also relaxed claw, which I was like, no shot. I have had my fair share of ergonomic mice, and for the most part, I haven't loved a ton of them. Now, recently, I have reviewed some mice that have actually surprised me, like the Logitech Dex. That was like such a surprise for me. I actually really love, and I feel like the mouse fits my hands super well. Then we look at something like the Terra Pro from T-Evolution. Now, that one's a little bit not fair because that is basically the Logitech G703, which I adore. And so comparing those kind of mice to something like a Death Adder V3, I could never get used to a Death Adder V3. I could not relax claw grip that mouse to save my life. It just never worked for me. But there have been some ergos that I have really enjoyed, and I am super stoked to say that the JV-X is now another one of those mouse. Now, if you're not familiar with this JV-X and why it's called the JV-X, so there is a professional player, used to be a professional player called Jesse Vash. Now, he used to play competitively in Dota 2 and games like Overwatch, and then most recently played in Valorant. Now, those are very different games, right? You have a MOBA, you have a dynamic first-person shooter, and then you have a tactical, slower-paced shooter. And so, with this whole Pro Series lineup, it's Pulsar working with these, pro players and kind of working with them in collaboration to make a mouse that represents them, and what they like, what they enjoy, and kind of use their experience from all the games that they've played. And when it comes to JV-X, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, it's a mouse that you can palm, right? So if you're playing something like Dota, you don't need to be claw gripping when playing Dota. So, it has that support to palm the mouse. But then let's say you're playing something a little bit more shooter focused like Overwatch or like Valorant, it is also a mouse that you can relax claw grip. And so just, yeah, very, very interested in the mouse. So I reached out to them, was immensely blessed to then get the opportunity to review it. And so here we are, and I've used it, and I just really am blown away by the mouse. I was not confident that I was going to click with this shape. And dude, let me tell you, as soon as I just held the mouse, I was like, holy crap, that is so easy to relax a claw grip, man. Like, I love the placement of the side buttons. So for me personally, I have a, pretty average hand size, a little bit smaller maybe than most. And so for me, one of the things I hate when holding my mice is having my thumb having to extend so far up to touch the upper side button. The back side button is always easy to press, right? But for me, I've sometimes struggled with that upper side button. And so for me personally with this mouse, I love the placement. I know some people weren't totally a fan of it. They've made critiques about them being together like that and not being separate. I could see, I could see that and understand that for sure. And I would maybe even say I'd prefer maybe if those buttons were like...
Bro, stop. Breathe, breathe, breathe.
Actually separated from one another. But in terms of the placement, I really, really enjoy the placement. I love the scroll wheel. I love the clicks. The coating feels so nice. And again, I have to be conscious and honest about it. Coming from something like the Final Mouse, where, you pay so much and the quality just isn't fully there, to then go something like this for $130. And man, the shell feels so premium. The scroll wheel feels great. The clicks feel phenomenal. The side buttons feel great. Like, the grip is super, super well for my hands. And again, as someone like myself who has and deals with hyperhidrosis, the coating has felt fantastic. Again, for an ergo mouse that doesn't have a hump towards the back, I can relax claw grip this with ease. I have no problem. Like, I don't have to adjust. It is just there. And what I think really does it is, even though there is no back hump here, the way that they designed it, where it's kind of like this elongated, kind of drastic slope down, that whole part covers my palm of my mouse, or the palm of my hand. So instead of having the hump hit the upper part of my palm, it's actually covering like this whole bottom part, if that makes sense. And so even though it's not hitting it the way that I typically would like with, the style of the shape, it's still doing it where it's accomplishing the job that I need when wanting to use a relaxed claw grip. I'm still able to do it because it's still kind of covering that space of my hand that I need it to cover. And so, dude, I don't know if that makes sense. I know that I'm not the greatest with these kind of like descriptions, but just super surprised with it, man. Like, I have been enjoying it so much. And, to quickly go over the software of the JV-X. So you have your typical kind of stuff that, you can change the left click and all this stuff. You have stuff like turbo mode, motion sync, debounce, auto sleep, different profiles that you can import and export. Over in its performance tab, you can change its DPIs, its pulling rate options, lift-off distance going all the way down to 0.7. You can even change the parameters, so like, the mouse sensitivity, scrolling speed, stuff like that. Those I kind of recommend just kind of keeping to itself, because I believe this is like the Windows mouse speed. So just kind of keep that by default. You can change it if you want, but I just kind of leave that blank. And then they also have like a macro tab, and then they show you, your battery life here. And yeah, man, I've been gaming a lot of Valorant, a lot of Marvel Rivals recently. So those are two different kind of shooters, right? You have Rivals being very fast-paced, very dynamic. And also I've been playing Daredevil. So if any of you guys have been playing Rivals, Daredevil's freaking cracked, right? He's just, in my opinion, he's busted. But he is a very up-close, melee-focused kind of hero. And so I'm constantly having to like move my camera around super fast. And with this mouse, I have not once ever felt like my grip was not locked in and confident. It never felt like it was slipping due to the name of it being an ergo shape, and due to it not having like that back hump that I kind of rely on with a relaxed claw grip. Again, with the way that it's designed, it always felt locked in. Then with something like Valorant, the more slower paced tactical shooter, it still felt fantastic. I like this mouse is awesome. And what's cool is, again, it makes sense because from the pro himself, Jesse Vash, he plays these multiple different type of titles. He played professionally in Valorant, he played professionally in Overwatch, and then even was in the MOBA scene. And so I could typically, when I'll play, my wife loves League of Legends, like she loves League of Legends. And it's one of the worst regrets that I have when I introduced her to PC gaming. And so typically when I'll play League with her, I'll sometimes swap over to a more comfortable mouse so I can just kind of relax when playing League. But with this, I haven't needed to, because you can just kind of relax your hand and not need to claw grip it and more just kind of palm it, which I don't typically palm because I don't really like that in those more kind of shooter focused games. But in something like League, it's perfectly fine. And the mouse feels great because it works for both, man. Like, I've never had a mouse, in my opinion, where I could palm it just as effectively as I could relax claw grip it. And so, massive shout out to Pulsar and their JV-X Pro line. It was a mouse that I had very little confidence in that I would like, but because of that, though, my interest was piqued when they were saying that it was a mouse for not only palm grip, but also relaxed claw grip. And for me personally, having that average to smaller hand size, I felt like I just felt so connected and like perfectly in sync with the mouse. Like I just felt like I was never having to readjust or like consciously having to fix my hand position. It just always felt very in sync. Just I pick it up, grab it, and I'm good. I'm good to play, and I don't even think about it. That's one of the biggest irks that I have with mice, is when I need to think about how I'm holding it, because then you're just not focusing on the game. And so, yeah, can't recommend it enough. I think $130, again, isn't cheap, but if you have the money for it, I think it's a phenomenal price and offers such a fantastic mouse. I cannot say it enough that they really did such a great job. And so thank you, Pulsar. Thank you guys for checking out this video, and I'll check you guys for the next review. See you later.